So, the World Cup is just around the corner. And what I love about the World Cup more than anything is seeing who lives up to the occasion and who doesn't. And a lot of this comes down to how the biggest football players in the world handle pressure. Knockout football against the world's best can be brutal, and it's in these moments that we really learn what players are truly made of. In other words, how strong their mentalities are. So let's have a bit of fun and rank the mindsets of the World Cup's best players. So essentially we've got 16 players, one from each country that I think has at least one world-class player. And yes, we've snuck in Christian Pulisic there as a bit of a wild card. Reason being is that he's a LeBron James of soccer, so why wouldn't you? And also the fact that a lot of my viewers are American. Don't at me for this one. Anyway, the rules are simple. I'll go through each of these guys one by one and just give my opinion on what I think they're made of mentally. And what I'm judging this on is their mentality at this moment in time. So I'm thinking about if each of these players got to the final and the result of the match really hinged upon them, how would they deal with that pressure? And because they play different positions, I'm not just thinking about, would they be able to step up and score the winning penalty? I'm thinking, could they successfully handle being the last defender against a three-man attack and, deal with that? And I'm also thinking things like, if they're surrounded by 5 players, are they going to be able to weave out of that and then thread through the perfect pass for someone to finish and score the winner? So basically any of those high pressure on a knife edge moments. And the categories we've got are pretty self-explanatory. So we've got weak, where I think the player would crumble under pressure. Then we've got meh, where they may or may not live up to the big moment. They can do the business, but it's not always a guarantee. And probably they'd rather someone else take the responsibility. Then we've got levels. So someone who's a big time Charlie, someone who you're going to back in the big moment, probably about 80% of the time. It's not like a dead cert. But in most cases, yeah, you'd back them. And then lastly, we've got beast. So pretty self-explanatory. Someone who's an absolute mentality monster. Someone who's going to absolutely nail it. And you've got no fear that they're going to freeze up or bottle it, basically. So let's crack on. So first up, I think we're going to go KDB. The thing with KDB, I think he's probably the best player in the Premier League, without question. But when it comes to knockout football, Champions League, I think he's always been a bit of a missing man to a certain extent. I don't think he does actually perform that well under pressure. I think when things are going really well, he's amazing. But when you're chasing a game, he's someone who's just a bit prone to strops, I think, as well. He can really let the negatives get to him. So if you think back to his let me talk moment, he's just a bit of a whinger, bit of a moaner. And yeah, I think when City have really relied on big players in the Champions League, he's always been missing a little bit. I think they've had to rely on people like Mahrez, Sterling, Jesus, Gundogan is quite a big game player. So if it's the 90th minute and KDB's got the ball out on the flank, he's going to put in one of those expert crosses. I think in the World Cup, he's going to be thinking, I've got Rom up front. And probably in his mind, he's probably thinking, let me have Haaland. For that reason, I'm actually going to put him at meh. So a bit controversial to start with. So next up, we'll go Lewandowski. Absolute beast, but the issue is, I think, with him, those TikToks, right? He can't be a beast with those TikToks. So, yes, he's been robbed a couple of Ballon d'Ors. Manages to not necessarily be a one-man team with Poland. They do have some good other players, but, he is the man for them. And, he's been fantastic since he's gone to Barcelona. But those TikToks, mate, what were you thinking? For that reason, he's going to be levels. Next, we'll go with Modric. So, Luka Modric, he is a beast. And the reason for that is because, he's still absolutely pulling strings at, 36, 37, however old he is. He managed to get Croatia to the final last time, which was an insane achievement. Was best player at the tournament. The thing with Modric is that you just trust him with anything, right? You trust him to be one of those, Uber Eats drivers, but instead of food, they've got human organs, and they've got to get there in time for a transplant. I would back Luka Modric on a moped if he's carrying me, a kidney if I needed it. So, for that reason, absolute beast. Next up, we'll go with Son. So absolute world-class player on his day. This season hasn't really been working out for him. He's obviously had that injury as well. Again, someone who's prone to a bit of whinging, when it's not going his way, toys out the pram type character. Yeah, I think because the combination of not being in form and also the injury to his face, there's going to be concerns over his fitness. I think at this moment in time, I think he's actually weak. I think mentally he's a bit weak at the minute. So he's going to go there. Oh, what was that behind Son? Oh, what was that? Who put that there? You know what to do. Next up, Sadio Mane. If this was 6 months ago, 100% he'd be beast, right? You know, won the Africa Cup of Nations, got Senegal to the World Cup finals as well against Egypt. And, you know, he's obviously just their main man. He is the star. The unfortunate thing is that his move to Bayern just hasn't panned out probably as well as we'd like. He's also injured. There are concerns over his fitness. So I think, you know, normally he would be beast if this was like a few months ago. But I think, you know, his confidence, his mentality has taken a bit of a hit. The transition to Bayern just hasn't been what he would have liked. So for that reason, I'm going to have to give him meh. Valverde. So Valverde, this guy, I think, you know, he's come on to what? This guy, I think, is an absolute baller. You know, I think he's come into form just at the right time. You know, those long shots that he has, so versatile. I think they call him the three-lung man or something because this guy just doesn't stop running. The issue is that he plays for Uruguay. And, you know, just looking back at sort of history of Uruguay, things can end up being a bit chaotic at times. Can lose their heads, perhaps, a touch. So I think he'll be a calming force for them. But at the same time, heat at the moment in the World Cup, things can boil over very quickly. He's still quite young. So I think I'm going to have to put him meh as well. Next up, we got Neymar. So the issue with Neymar is that he is a bit of a crybaby, whinger, diver, roller, you know, whatever you want to say. But he is playing incredible football this season, perhaps his best at PSG. He's coming to form at the right time. There, I think, finally is a bit of maturity now with Neymar as well. You know, he's one of the senior elder statesmen in that Brazil squad that is just packed to the rafters with attacking talent. He's still the main man. And I think on his day, he can be a beast, but it's just not consistent enough. Can throw his toys out the pram quite easily, can, you know, snap very easily. I think as well, just like the emotion he has when he plays for Brazil is a great thing in some regards, but it can also be his greatest weakness, I think. So overall, he's going to have to be levels. Next up, who should we go for? Obviously, I'm going to be leaving some of the big guns till the end, so stay. And there's going to be some explosive comments about CR7. Yeah, we'll go with Gareth Bale next. So Gareth Bale, big time player. So this guy's record in finals, in knockout competitions, you know, dragging Wales to the semi-finals of the Euros a few years ago. Obviously, his career has dipped, you know, the past few years, the whole falling out at Madrid and just being a bench warmer. But then he went to Tottenham on loan, and although he was never really fit, when he came on, he actually scored an insane amount of goals, you know, for the amount of time he actually got on the pitch. On his day, he's an absolute beast. And when it comes to the World Cup, you know, his knockout competition, he's so level-headed. He doesn't really get fazed by the big moment because I think deep down he doesn't actually give a shit. He prefers golf more than football. So I think I'm actually going to have to put him at beast because if Wales had the 89th minute free kick or whatever, he's stepping up. You'd be quite confident he's going to score. So next up, Pedri. This fella, golden boy. I think he kind of stole that off a couple of other good players, Musiala perhaps, and also Bellingham. Technically amazing, fantastic. I think still just like too young. I think unfortunately Pedri's just going to be a bit meh. There's not a lot that he can do. He's still so young. I think there's perhaps too much sort of pressure placed on him. Similar to kind of like Wayne Rooney, 2004 and 2006, those competitions. Way too much pressure on one player, and particularly someone who's so young. Yes, he's an absolute baller. I think he just needs more experience in big games at the highest level to have that mentality of being a beast, which I think he probably will be, later down the line. Next up, we'll go Joshua Kimmich. So I think he's absolutely amazing. This guy is so good, so versatile, happily slots in at right back from time to time when he needs to. As a CDM, every single thing that you want. You know, he's just so calm, is someone who can dictate a game. I think, Germany need this kind of player at this point in time. They themselves have been disappointing the past couple of tournaments. I think you should never rule out the Germans at major competitions. And I think he will be someone that if they are to go all the way or have a prolonged run, he's going to really be at the heart of that. So I think I'm going to have to say Kimmich, never say his name, someone corrects me. He's a beast. I think he's a beast. Ooh, getting to the big guns now. So Van Dyke. The issue with Van Dyke, I think he's been a bit exposed recently. Liverpool have been very hit and miss. He's lost that unbeaten record that he had at Anfield. Was that also like in front of crowds or something? I can't remember. Liverpool fans are weird. But Van Dyke, fantastic player, Rolls Royce defender, all that shit. But he's the conversations people have of saying that he's like all-time great when he's won like one Premier League and one Champions League. Anyway, this guy, I think he's on the decline. And I know there's a lot of expectation among the Netherlands now because I don't think they were in the last World Cup, if I'm not mistaken. They've been a bit subpar in recent years. I think on his day, he is a beast. His mentality, his drive, that view of no one's getting past me. Is he past it? That's the question. So I think I'm going to have to say with Van Dijk at this moment in time, he's meh as well. He's a bit meh. Yeah, sorry, mate. Last few. So Puli, the LeBron James of soccer. This guy, on his day, he is a world beater. But unfortunately, his day is 3 times a season. Since Chelsea lost Hazard, this guy looked like he could be the replacement, right? Those sort of darting runs, so direct. The issue is that it's just the consistency, getting in the team, getting the top performances. I think USA could be a dark horse in this competition. The amount of amazing young talent that they've got coming through, perhaps their best squad ever. McKennie, Dest, Tyler Adams, Brendan Aronson, and obviously this guy, Rayner, all of these top young players. It's their time to shine, arguably. And Captain America could lead the charge. So, dare I do this? I'm going to put Puli at levels at this moment in time. That is a controversial one, but hey ho. So, last 4 big guns. Kylian Mbappe. What can you say about this fella? So obviously there's still that kind of ongoing sort of fallout of the Madrid fiasco of him going there, rejecting them at the last minute, re-signing with PSG. He now wants to leave again. Apparently he's not happy supposedly with Messi. He wanted to get rid of Neymar. He's just being a little isn't he? Yes, on his day, absolute beast, has that drive to win, but you can't win solely alone. You have to be a team player. And of course, he's already won the World Cup. He scored in the final last time at like 19. I feel with Mbappe, he's probably actually like deep down jealous and sort of hating the resurgence of Karim Benzema coming back into the French national team. It's a tough one with Mbappe. It really is, because he is amazing, but his attitude, it kind of stinks at times. He's not very sort of likable anymore for a lot of people. So if he didn't do that whole fiasco thing, if he was actually at Madrid now, I think he'd be a beast. But we're gonna have to say levels for Mbappe. Right, Mr. Harold Kane. So the thing with Harry Kane, a lot of people love to joke, he's never won a trophy, but this guy's a world-class striker. The amount of goals that he scores in a team that's like not that great. Yes, Tottenham were really good, 4 years ago? Since then, they've always been in a bit of a sort of crisis, having all these ups and downs. He has remained so consistent. I think last season, he was a bit sort of slow to get at the races. I think that was partly the fallout of losing the Euros final, much like a lot of other England players didn't actually perform that well last season. But this season, if Haaland didn't exist, we'd all be, brown-nosing this guy, because the amount of goals that he scored, his record this season is phenomenal in the Premier League. He is in the form of his life, and he steps up for the big moment. And a lot of people say, his goals in major competitions, they've mainly been penalties. So what? Stepping up to take a penalty is arguably the most pressurized thing that you can do in football. He will, without hesitation, pick up the ball, pick his spot, and nail it in the top corner or bottom corner. The amount of power, there's always risk with that. He's got his routine, he locks in, he does it. He, in my eyes, is a beast. I'm biased because I'm from the UK, because I'm from England. But in my eyes, Harry Kane, he's a beast. But we're probably not going to bring it home. So, the last 2 big dogs. CR7, we'll go with him. The issue, I think, with CR7 at the minute is that he is, unfortunately, a broken man. I've always been his biggest supporter. I've always thought he pips Messi in that debate. I've been a fanboy of Ronaldo since I was a kid. Used to have a Man United shirt with his number on the back. Used to cut out his picture from all the match magazines and put them on my wall. Love this guy. But the past sort of few months, it's just all gone downhill. You have to appreciate the guy has gone through really tough personal stuff with the loss of his son. That bereavement, has probably been absolutely horrible and devastating. So you have to take that in consideration. And there are signs that he's struggling because, he met with Jordan Peterson for a few hours. He's obviously getting psychological help And he's now come out doing this interview with Piers Morgan where he's slagging off Man United, attacking all these ex-players for supposedly bad-mouthing him, but they've just done, general criticisms, which I think are fair and you should expect in football. He's on the decline. There's no question. And there's no shame in that. He's 37 years old. Like everyone else who's an elite player retires at 33, 34, 35. This guy has still been doing insane things at his age. But I think he is a broken man at this point in time. The confidence is not there. The fitness is not there. Yes, on his day, beast. And his day happens, a lot. But it hasn't happened in such a long time. I wish that he has his last sort of dance in the sun and, does incredible things and, takes Portugal as far as they possibly can. But with everything that's been going on lately, I honestly think there's no shying away from this. There's no lying. I think Ronaldo is actually quite weak mentally at the minute. He is, as said again, a broken man at this point in time. Who knows? He might score in the first group stage game and that will then snowball his confidence. But there's just too many signs that are pointing to this is a man who is really going through it at the minute. And despite him being the best player ever in my eyes, I think he is past it. I hate to say that. I hope to be proven wrong. But at this point in time, Ronaldo is weak in terms of his mentality, unfortunately. Then, this guy, Mr. Lionel Messi, without question, the second best player ever to grace the game in my eyes. And the resurgence that we've seen with him this season, obviously had a whiffy season last season with PSG. But this year, he's just scoring and assisting for fun. He's 35. Just incredible what he's doing. This is obviously his last major sort of chance at winning the competition. Obviously won the Copa America most recently, got that sort of hoodoo off his back of not winning an international trophy. And the stars are aligned. It's written in the stars for him to go all the way. And the caveat is that he's never scored a World Cup knockout goal, but there's a first time for everything, and you would put money on him breaking that duct. So without question, Lionel Messi, he has to be a beast. He has to be. And that pains me, putting my boy CR7, weak, Messi, beast. But you have to be realistic. I think that's just where these players' heads are at this moment in time. This is something everyone's going to have their own opinion on. I'm far from an expert here. And yeah, something a bit different, maybe something you haven't thought about before. But yeah, mentality is so key. I think that will determine who wins the World Cup. So it'll be interesting to see which of these guys perform, which of these guys don't, because invariably a lot won't. A lot of big players don't live up to the biggest occasion. That is the unfortunate reality. I think a lot of it comes down to how they're using their minds. So let me know your thoughts, where I've gone wrong. There's probably going to be a lot of disagreement here. And I'll see you in the next one.